Hello, everyone, and welcome to part 2 of a special edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. Initially, this was going to be just a standard podcast that was part 1, but I ran a little long and wanted to split it into 2. So this is a continuation from episode 15, which was called Retractions, Redactions, and Other Bullet Points. I'm going to continue on with the free agent merry-go-round, but before I get continued and move on to that topic, I just wanted to let some of my social media friends out there on Facebook and the various Facebook groups, the moderators of those groups, and of course, my loyal Twitter followers. I also wanted to give you guys a huge shout out. Thank you for giving me a platform to do what I do. I didn't forget about you. I just, it's one of those things where you're like the Oscars and they're playing the music and you have to go off stage. So didn't forget about all you guys. Much love. Here comes the rest of my podcast.
Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, a Pittsburgh Steelers podcast made by fans like you, for fans like you. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma.
My last point that I wanted to make in this special, not so special, rambling all over the place podcast was I was quite amused, and I'm not sure that I quite came across in talking about the left tackle merry-go-round as much as I wanted to. So as you may already know, I have a buddy. I actually have more than one friend that's a Denver Broncos fan, and you know that's quite common when you're always pulling for the front runner. They're on the bandwagon, and rightfully so. They've been Broncos fans for a while, so I'm just kind of teasing. But there are three tackles that are bouncing around like with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of course, you had Kelvin Beachum, who was the incumbent left tackle, 7th-round pick, who panned out to be much better than any 7th-round pick they could have hoped for. Started the previous year, come in last season. Started, I want to say, 7, 8, 9 games. Once again, apologies, I don't have it in front of me, but he played basically half a season before tearing up his knee, I believe his ACL. So Kelvin Beachum, heading into the 2015 season last year, a little bit beyond this point, maybe a year from this June, July, was in contract talks because the Steelers obviously expressed interest in keeping him as their left tackle. Now, looking at this from a free agent standpoint, what exactly happened that Kelvin Beachum is no longer on this roster? Well, if you look at the history of the Steelers signing players, they've always had the interest of offering these contract extensions and getting players under lock and key before the season starts. Because, number one, the Pittsburgh Steelers front office, they do not negotiate while the season's ongoing. They don't like those type of distractions. So it's going to be before week 1, and after, hopefully, if they're in the playoffs, after that has all occurred, then they're going to talk contract. So they're going to try and get everyone signed before they can become unrestricted free agents. And, of course, this was the case with Kelvin Beachum last offseason. So if you look at it from Kelvin Beachum's standpoint, one of the most valuable, probably the most valuable position, I'm just going to come out and say, left tackles make a lot of money when you look at the other positions along the line. Now, of course, exception to the rule being is if you have a center like Marquise Pouncey. We also saw in Cleveland like an Alex Mack. Those guys, yeah, they make a lot of money too. Every bit is important. But your guards in the NFL, and for the most part, a lot of your right tackles are not making as much money as a left tackle. And for those who may not be as familiar with game of football, when you have a player like Ben Roethlisberger, who is a right-handed quarterback, what we call his blind side is his opposite side from what he's throwing to is his left. Many times when he's going to roll out, if he does roll out and doesn't stay in the pocket, or any movement is going to be to his right, because it's much more difficult for him to move to the left side of his body and then throw with his right arm. Now, not impossible, but if you see where I'm going with this and he starts moving left and you're right-handed and then you find that you're going to have an open receiver to your right, okay, not going to work out so great. So a lot of times your attention is not exactly coming from that left side. So that's what they call the blind side, and your left tackle is your blind side protector. So in the simplest of terms, and hopefully I don't have someone rolling their eyes out there, but trust me, this is good information for someone who doesn't know as much as we do. And I don't profess to know everything. There's always someone that knows more than me, but I do know this. Your blindside protectors are going to make a lot of money. And it's a good story too, because as you see, they have Hollywood movies about what else called The Blind Side. And that's exactly where it comes from. Is this notion that you have to have someone who blocks on that outside edge and keeps those edge pass rushers, those other defenders, from hitting your quarterback from his blind side, i.e. the quarterback doesn't see it coming. Kelvin Beachum, a bit undersized at his position, and that's the reason he was a 7th round draft choice. However, very good with his technique, his skill, very talented player who ended up being a mainstay and a starter with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, that's going to catch some attention because as a 7th round pick, he's not making a lot of money for the last few seasons that he's been on the Pittsburgh roster. So what is Kelvin Beachum looking for? Well, he's looking for money. And like I said, the window of opportunity isn't very big for these players. So he's definitely looking for a way to cash in and a way to secure maybe his entire future if he is smart with his money. So he definitely isn't going to be asking for the same pittance that he's been making as a 7th round draft choice now that he is one of the more marquee players at a marquee position in the NFL. So Kelvin Beachum knows this and has that ace up his sleeve. So when you're talking in regards to should I sign this contract extension with the Steelers and maybe make a little less money than I would make if I become an unrestricted free agent next season, and maybe I won't be here, but I'm going to make some more money and maybe be in just as good of a situation or have as good as an opportunity, because opportunity, as a reminder, is just as important as the money in some of these situations, unless you're just a complete sellout. And I think these guys having college educations and being professionals have a little bit more integrity than that and are smarter than that and know that. But still, nonetheless, Kelvin Beachum is due a payday. So you have the Steelers front office who want Kelvin Beachum, but they don't want to pay Kelvin Beachum what Kelvin Beachum feels he's worth. Kelvin Beachum goes out, plays his season, plays half a season, gets hurt. It's the absolute worst thing that can happen because now he's in limbo. Now NFL teams aren't sure if Kelvin Beachum could come back and be the same Kelvin Beachum come the next season recovering from the knee injury. Okay, so while Kelvin Beachum had the ace up his sleeve in the offseason and was looking for a payday, the worst possible scenario for him is now that he's injured and out of the league without any payday, where the Steelers were willing to give him some money up front. So I'm sure the Steelers, already knowing how unsuccessful they were at the previous contract negotiations that they had with Kelvin, are now thinking of this heading into the 2016 offseason in the new league year. And I'm sure they had some discussion with Beachum. They've already had plenty before, and they know possibly they have to move on. So enter Russell Okung and Ryan Harris. Okung, formerly from the Seattle Seahawks, now a Denver Bronco, and Ryan Harris, formerly a Denver Bronco, now with the Pittsburgh Steelers. You see where the merry-go-round is. 3 left tackles, and 2 come to Pittsburgh. 1 from Denver. The guy in Denver ends up in Pittsburgh. The guy who comes through Pittsburgh and tweets out all 6 Lombardi trophies, puts that out on social media and kind of teases the Pittsburgh fans, ends up in Denver. And by the time all of this happens, Kelvin Beachum finally makes it official that he'll be a Jacksonville Jaguar. So he finds out he's without a spot, and that his leverage is pretty much gone, and the team that's shown him the best opportunity when it comes to both financial and his actual career is his best choice to go to now. And I say that with the best of intentions and being very thankful for what Kelvin Beachum has brought to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I wish him good luck in the future, as I wish just as much luck to our new acquired player, Ryan Harris. Welcome to Pittsburgh. And I hope you help us, Ryan, at least compete maybe at that left tackle spot, and you can help this team on its stairway to 7. That would be 7 Lombardi trophies. So then that way you could tweet out a picture and show Russell Okung what he was missing out on. I want to thank everyone again for being a listener. Stay tuned in our upcoming episodes. I'm going to finally get into the Steelers, some of their draft prospects, and exactly what type of approach they may be taking in late August at the NFL draft. But before that, I didn't want to get into it even before the Easter break because we still have several weeks until we get to the draft. So stay tuned, and once again, thank you for being a follower.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.